You're listening to Trainual's SMB Consulting Show with Bradford Jones.
Hey, it's Bradford back again with another episode of this series that we're doing with our certified consultants. My name's Bradford. I'm the Implementation Experience Manager here at Trainual. Well, not here at Trainual, here in my home right now. We're all remote. Today is March 31st, 2020. So it's important because everything's changing by the day. And so we're going to talk today to Nita Bowers. She's from the Training Place. She's there in Central Louisiana. So one of our certified consultants that's really great for us. And so we're really excited to have you, Nita. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bradford. I really appreciate your asking me to do this.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to your insight on this. You work with some clients, that are pretty interesting during this time in the world, with everything going on. You and I were talking before we started about, kind of what's going on. And one of the things I'm asking here is what are you seeing and hearing from your clients during this time? And you have a pretty interesting perspective on that with some of the companies that you work with.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting to see the differences between the businesses that that have different types of challenges. About 60% of my customer base is healthcare, and that's everything from doctors' offices to major healthcare systems with hundreds of facilities. Of course, those in healthcare are busy doing what they do, and that's taking care of patients. So their challenges, what they've been calling me for, I do a lot of documentation, policy, procedures, training design, that sort of thing. So what that group has been calling me for is that they're taking their documents that are policies and procedures, but they're needing shorter versions. And it's kind of like what we always say in Trainual, that, you need short snippets. And so they've asked me to simplify their documents for them so that that nurse or that doctor or that technician at the patient bedside can look at their phone and find the information really quickly rather than going through a real long document. So their primary challenges are new processes, new procedures, and also optimizing the ones that they have to meet the crisis. On the other side of the spectrum are my customers in manufacturing, in services, software vendors that I do implementation for. Many of them have never had a remote workforce. And so their challenge when they call me is, Nita, I don't know how to manage this workforce. We really don't have the documentation in place for them to use. They're used to being in an office, and if they have a question, they go and they ask their peer. Now that's a little more difficult. So we need documents that are their processes that they can refer to, and like we do in Trainual, we have those documents in there. The other place I see that I think Trainual could be used really well for is the forum, because if someone's sitting at home and they have an instant question, they can't ask their suite mate or their cubicle mate or whatever. So all of those customers are struggling more with the remote management of staff members and getting their staff members to work effectively from home. Many of the staff members don't know how to use online platforms. They don't know how to have meeting etiquette online, that you should be on time, that you should try the platform before the meeting. So they're coming late to meetings, and work is not getting done. So it was interesting to see the different challenges that the different types of customers have called me about.
Yeah, wow. It's an interesting perspective because, those of us who have been working from home, and, I work for a SaaS platform, so we were pretty easy to kind of turn it on and turn it off to go remote. But there's, the majority of companies aren't as nimble as that from a tech standpoint. And so what would you say to a company, what are some things that you could think of, maybe some easy or quick things that they could do to help their remote teams get up and going? As maybe if they're not used to it right now. You mentioned some of the etiquette perspective, which I thought was pretty impressive. There's probably some tools out there online that could help get up to speed. But is there anything else you can think of that would maybe help some people during this time get going?
Yeah, I think that revisiting their documentation, so their documentation on, how someone actually does their job. Unfortunately, in the past, writing these documents effectively has not been a real priority. And, all of us don't learn how to write documents that are actually used. I mean, we're writing academically. We wrote term papers that required 15,000 pages, and so we gave them 15,000 pages. We wrote with big, long words that nobody understands because we wanted to impress our professors. That's not the way to write documentation in business. But most people don't. They've never been trained to do that. So I think that any help that I believe that the subject matter experts should be the ones that are actually writing the documents. The ones that are doing the job should write it. So perhaps, tapping into those subject matter experts, if they are working remotely, say, would you write down the process that you use to do this activity? And then making that available in some sort of, a forum or, application like Trainual or any of your document management platforms. I think that would really help, just really day to day, and speak in the English language, so to speak, because just so that they know what to do. So optimizing that documentation to fit this. The other thing is training. I think time management is an issue for remote workers. So maybe just a little brief training. I know one of my software vendors that I use, that I distribute their e-learning courses, they have a video training on telework and remote working. And so I've made that available for my customers, my current customers. I've given that to them that they can post that and they can use that. But there's a lot of good material out there. So I think any help that you can give your remote workers how to manage their time and perhaps work better from home would be good. And then this is an opportunity. I don't think that companies realized how important the documentation would be and how important that planning and training would be. I think this is an opportunity for companies that maybe have never used remote workers to see that, yeah, there are some challenges to that, but there's also some opportunities so that you can use them more effectively. So I think that we have a real opportunity to make a mixed delivery world in our business organizations and develop those processes to do that. So I really believe it'll be a process improvement opportunity for a lot of companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that we've been doing, to your documentation point, was we've been making like little short videos of how we do things just in general. And then one things that I'm doing when I'm making them is, like, back in the past, I would have been like, hey, Dan, I'm going to show you how to do this. But what I've been making it for is try to make it scalable. So I've been saying, hey, here at Trainual, this is how we do this. And we may or may not use it after these 2 weeks while we're kind of shifting and, trying to serve the best way we can. But now it's going to live on, right? And so that's the good thing, is like, we're hoping at Trainual that we come out of this with a lot more documentation, because we've asked the silly questions to each other in a documented way via Slack or email or whatever. And so now those silly questions are documented. Just like you said, they didn't get lost just by auditory, giving it to somebody in your cubicle next to you. So, I think that what you spoke to the documentation piece of having people do that, like, I just yesterday morning, I did one we were just reorganizing some roles to try to get more focused time spent on one department. So I made a couple of videos to get that done. And I was like, wow, this is great. The training's already done completely for it. And it was something that I would have written in, a month or so, but now we had to do it right that moment and then move forward. So I think you're completely right about this being an opportunity. And unfortunately, through this series, we've spoken to so many different types of consultants, and some people's businesses are going down, or shut down, unfortunately. Some are ramping up, like maybe you're seeing in the medical field and things like that. But you spoke to it being an opportunity. What are some ways you would see companies coming out of this on the other side in a better place? Like, if they said, what would they thank themselves for in 6 months? And hopefully this is over in 6 months, completely, and we're back to normal life. But what would you say people would thank themselves for in 6 months that they did during this time?
I think probably one of the main things they would thank themselves for, and hopefully they've done this, is that they learned how to support their employees. Because even when those employees come from the remote world back into the office, they still have the same needs. They still need to be trained. They still need to have references. They still need to have that information. So I see a lot of my customers that are building new processes and such and documenting them while they build them. So I think that opportunity, once we do get back to normal, I think will just enhance their library to do that. And I've been watching your videos because being a Trainual user myself, they've been excellent. But I think that also it's really important that when you're working remotely, the videos are terrific, but also to have the supporting documentation in some sort of format for that, because some remote, as we all have been suffering, the internet has slowed down tremendously. Some remote workers can't use the video or it buffers or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I believe, and that's, if you see any of my course content or whatever, I believe that the video as well as the step for step is really important, and the employees have the opportunity to do that. But I think that the companies will thank themselves for supporting their employees, not giving up, and also being supportive in the documentation piece. That's just very important. And the training, because the more training they provide the employees in this crisis, the more training they'll have as they come out of it, but then they'll have a better trained workforce. And they may find that, hey, some jobs work better remotely. So it gives them the opportunity. But I think that's the biggest thing is to hang in there. And when a question or a crisis comes up, don't look at it like that. Look at it as, hey, I have an opportunity now to develop whatever it is. And then when they come out of this in 6 months, they're going to have a tremendous library of processes, of documents. They'll also probably know their employees better. They'll learn who does what better because they're depending on certain employees to do certain tasks. And I think they'll be able to manage those employees according to their skill levels better. So I believe that's what they'll see as thanking themselves for.
Yeah, those are great points. And to your point about the video, we want to make videos accessible to everybody. So if there's auditory issues or just connectivity issues, there's some tools online that are we won't name any of them here, but you can just upload a video and it'll just give you the either an auto transcript service, or they'll actually have somebody write it for you pretty quickly. And so one cool thing about Trainual with that is you can make a recorded video or something and then just put the text below, even if you were in scramble mode and you said we don't have time to dedicate to this, at least it would be searchable at that point, right? So it gives it some keywords and stuff. So I love that you brought up that point, because the video is not just the complete, not just throw it in there and it's done. We need to massage it a little bit. We need to get the content out of it that it needs to be there, for sure. So
that's why I actually added Trainual to my arsenal of training platforms, is because of the in-app video recorder and the ability to have the text along with it, rather than because a lot of my, I have some customers that are, 3 or 4 employees, and they may be forklift operators, or they may be making paper cardboard boxes, and they're not real savvy. They don't work with technology. They do what they do. So one of the reasons I like Trainual is because you can sit them in front of a computer, have them video what they do, and then have somebody who really knows how to write documents to effectively write the process. So because those small companies, many times they're, especially in some of the areas, their employees are just not real tech savvy. We're lucky if we can get them to learn how to download. So I think that's a really good point. And that's, like I said, that's another reason why I like to use Trainual in those settings, is because it doesn't take someone who is real technology savvy to be able to produce really good content for you.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, subject matter experts don't need to be a subject matter expert on a complete suite of online tools, right, to be able to tell you how to do their job. what we're trying to replicate is the training, that they can offer that's in their heads already. They know how to operate their role in their company. But just because they don't know how to sit down and get it completely out of their heads in a formatted way and shared, via Google Drive and down, all this other stuff, doesn't mean that they can't effectively train, and so I think that's a good point. And it's probably a good time to kind of talk about, what services you provide and just kind of your business overall. And then we'll kind of wrap up here.
Okay, well, it sounds good. Well, I've had a consulting practice for a little over 20 years now. It's been focused on multiple industries, but because I have a lot of healthcare experience, both clinical and administrative and pharmaceutical and distribution, 60% of my business generally has been healthcare. Another part of my business is software vendors actually contract me to go do their implementation and training for their platforms for them. That's the other challenge, I think, that everyone they get a great application, but they set it up incorrectly. And it's very important because every instance is different. So a lot of what I do is go in and figure out the best structure for the applications, including Trainual. That's what I do as a Trainual certified consultant. The other thing I do is document creation and optimization, policies and procedures. So I do writing. I take a company's documents and rewrite them to be more easily read, to be more easily accessible. And then I also am a Lean Six Sigma black belt. And so I do process improvement, which works really well with documentation because you can have a great process, but you also have to document it. So that's kind of what I do, and I do it in multiple industries. Like I said, I have everything from doctor's offices to forklift operators. So basically, I do most of my training. I do about 50 or 60%. Generally, it was online. And up until now, 40% on site. Hopefully, some of that will come back because there are some things that are better done on site. Mm-hmm. But that's basically it. And my motto is where high tech meets high touch. And I fully believe that. I believe that you don't have bad employees or bad staff. You either have bad processes or the wrong technology. And if you get all that to work together, then you're in good shape and your effectiveness goes up. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I like the ending part there because we can blame it on the that everyone loves a scapegoat, and a lot of times it's the staff members or whatever it is when it comes down to it. But you're right. I think most employees try to do the right thing and try to help the company, and so if we can give them the tools to do that, I think we're all better for it. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Obviously, people can contact you through trainual.com and our certified consultants page, but what other ways can they contact you?
They can contact me through my email, which is Nita, Nita, @thetrainingplace.com. That's in my Trainual account. And also my website is thetrainingplace.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Just put Nita Bowers and you'll find me on LinkedIn. And you'll see all my references and some of my customer comments there. So, and again, Bradford, I really appreciate everything Trainual has done. Y'all have been great in this. I was already impressed with the Trainual platform, but the organization is equally impressive, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, thank you. We're proud of our consultants. We're proud of our team, obviously, and we're hoping that we'll be back in our offices in Scottsdale soon, so we can all be back together again. But for now, from here in Tennessee and then here remotely there in Louisiana, Nita, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Bradford.
Thanks for listening to Trainual's SMB Consulting Show with Bradford Jones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to learn more about Trainual and our certified consultants, head over to trainual.com.